Hello, and welcome back to Measuring Learner Data and Assessment. This is Week 2, Lecture 1, Purpose of Assessment. This lecture will focus on presenting and providing a short discussion on the different types of assessment, as well as providing a connection for each type of assessment back to the different forms of assessment as introduced in Week 1. There are 4 major types of assessment: diagnostic, formative, interim, and summative. Diagnostic assessments, also sometimes called pre-assessments, provide instructors with information about students' prior knowledge and misconceptions before beginning a learning activity. They also provide a baseline for understanding how much learning has taken place after the learning activity is completed. We've seen an increase in these types of assessments in New York State with the advent of new teacher rating systems. It would be assumed that the same is true in California. We also use diagnostic assessment on a regular basis in special education in order to determine students' current levels of functioning in a variety of areas. Diagnostic assessments tend to be standardized and therefore fall under the category of formal assessment, as discussed in Week 1. Formative assessments take place during a learning activity to provide the instructor with information regarding how well the learning objectives of a given learning activity are being met. Examples of these can include observation, questioning, discussion, exit slips, learning logs, peer reviewing, anything else that's taking place in the course of the lesson. You've probably already made the connection that, usually, formative assessments fall under the informal assessment category, as discussed in Week 1. An interim assessment is a form of assessment that educators use to, 1, evaluate where students are in their learning progress, and 2, determine whether they are on track to performing well on future assessments, such as standardized tests or end-of-course exams. These tend to take the ideology behind formative assessment, for example, a quick check-in to make sure that learning is happening, and put a more formal spin on them, for example, making them a standardized test. Summative assessments are used to evaluate student learning, skill acquisition, and academic achievement at the conclusion of a defined instructional period, typically at the end of a project, unit, course, semester, program, or school year. While these can be more authentic and informal, for example, a construction of a portfolio over time, over the last 15 years, we have seen them become more and more formal and standardized. So it becomes clear that each type of assessment has a clearly defined purpose. A good way to categorize these purposes is to think that diagnostic assessment tends to tell the teacher what they need to do, formative assessment tends to tell the teacher how they're doing, interim and summative assessment tends to tell the teacher how the student is doing. Focusing on how the purpose of a type of assessment interacts with our goals as educators should be the most informative and crucial part of our decision-making process when weighing which type of assessment to utilize at any given time.